achieve. Today we want to talk all about where executing the strategy goes wrong. Where does it actually fall over and fail, even with the best of intentions? And I just want to talk about three key things. When I talk to clients about so what will often happen is an executive team will go away, they'll work out a strategy, and I'll say to them, our experience, what our clients tells us all over the world is that when we go to execute the strategy, it starts to fall over in the operations of the business. We've got the plan, we're united behind it, we know it, but when it comes to the rubber hitting the road, things go wrong. These are three of the biggest problems we find, and I think a lot of the time, these are the ones where we sort of understand it, but we don't really understand the depth and breadth of the problem and what it's truly costing us. The first one is trust. You're like, yeah, sure, Greg. Everybody says trust. Let me give you an example. So I was working with the chief operating officer of a large company, and they had operations in multiple countries. And we were talking about the speed of change in this cultural and business transformation, this cultural change, operational improvements that needed to be made. And when we were talking about the speed at which the operations were executing the game plan was agreed. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. It was agreed verbally, it was agreed in writing, but then nothing happened. So what was going on was there wasn't 100% buy-in. And when I asked this executive, I said, how much trust do you have with the individuals at level below? And he goes, look, it's a good relationship. Like, we get on really well. And I said, well, let's try putting a different angle on it. How much trust does the staff at site have in the executive team? The trust going up, the trust going down. This is the white collar, blue collar, us versus them kind of scenario. And he said, it's low, right? This is the problem, is there was a particular layer or a particular, where we ring the fence, right? What is the level of trust, or is the us and them, the executive team and the operational leaders, or does it sit between the exec team and the level below that? And what I mean by that is, if the us and them starts at the exec team and everyone below the exec team is not bought on, your change is never going to work. What we want to do is gain greater trust and buy-in 2 and 3 layers below the exec team. We want 100% trust in that group, vertically, right? Just talking vertically at the moment, right? And if we can get that trust and that buy-in, then you're going to get some rapid movement. But what my experience is, and this is I've been working with lots and lots and lots of clients here, is often at a particular point in the hierarchy, the vertical trust disappears. So that's one layer. Now we're going to talk about horizontal trust, where other members of your team at the same level in the organization as you don't have trust across the business, and we end up getting silos. Right? We don't have trust that we'll stick to the game plan. We don't have trust that we're actually playing to the same numbers, that we're being rewarded and incentivized the same way. So that is a really big one. It's one that the number of times I've asked this question, how good is the trust? People say, oh, it's pretty good. And I'm like, well, I bet your strategy's not been executed. It's just like one of the most powerful things you can do if you want to lubricate the wheels of change is get on the board with that trust. It's not something you can ignore. And yet I think we do a lot of the time. We cannot ignore the trust. We have to have the trust if we want to make the change happen. That's prerequisite number 1. So let's get that trust right. The second one is the right operating rhythm. Now, this is not just the rhythm of your quarterly offsite or your annual vision and strategy session. This is your monthly strategy execution session. I've done a whole episode of this. I think it's episode 114, and I'll give away my operating rhythm if you want it. Chief, you have to get this right. The monthly strategic planning or strategic execution steering committee is critical. If you don't have that month-to-month meeting where we review the key projects that will drive the strategy, and you don't have project managers being held accountable, it's going to fall over. We must have that in place. Right, so that's critical. The right operating rhythm, and it's the execution part of the operating rhythm which gets left off the most. Which takes us to the third thing, which is resourcing. A number of times I've seen executive teams say, right, we're going to do this big transformation piece, but there's no budget for it. You have to do it in your own day jobs. So 2 things happen. 1, You lose the trust of the people because you're not really showing them how serious you are about making this happen. So we go back to C.1 about trust being a prerequisite of success. And then the second one is, it means that the operating rhythm gets crushed, right? People won't have the time to do the things they need to do because they're already doing a day job, the business as usual, and you're lumping on hours of work a week in order to make transformation happen. So we need some budget, and we need some people being freed up to do the legwork and the grind. It happens a lot, more than you'd expect, that actually we try and cut corners in execution. If execution of the strategy is the pathway to better business results and cultural change, we just cannot take it easy on execution. We've got to get the trust, we've got to get the operating rhythm, we've got to get the right people in the right roles that will drive this forward. And if we don't, we're going to keep hitting hurdles along the way.